Hello everyone, it's me, Janky P, coming in with a new video. It's actually Monday, Women's Day, and I'm here on location, somewhere in between, well, we're near Warschauer Str, in between Berghain and what locals lovingly call dog shit skate park, in these little public gardens, as you can see. Got a microphone on, so maybe I'm not going to be able to dance around like normal. So, wand of the week on this second W STIK Wednesdays. Unfortunately, I only have like a pictorial and symbolic representation. This majestic, we've got some green on there. This is the symbolic representation of this week's wand. It's actually a stake of olive tree, which here is a little picture on here. Here we are. So yes, a stake of olive tree, which is normally, a peace offering, but this one, as you can see, was struck by lightning. Big stake. In real life it was probably like this big, and so yes, sadly this wand is no longer with us, or it's gone on to do new things for its life. But for 1 year, and this is why I'm here, I spent 1 year staked in this little pile of rocks here, what came to be known in my head as the Mount of Olives. I staked it in the ground, and it was part of my hexing of the mall, East Side Mall to be specific. I did it, it's like the 2-year anniversary. So upon the waning crescent moon in 2019, I kicked off my witchery. I was already doing witchery, but this was really like affirmation that I am unapologetically witch. Kicked off my witchery with a hexing of them all. I called it Warschauer working. It was a 6-month hex magical practice that every waning crescent moon I did a hex upon them all, which you can actually see here. I'll show you in a bit. So this is the wand of the week, the olive tree. So what happened? Well, in this video I'm going to tell you exactly why I hexed them all. But so I staked it here at midnight between Sunday and Monday. I'd been planning the hex all week. It was charging on my altar, and then I smuggled it into Berghain, wrapped up in my cloak, got energetically charged with all my pals, and then came out. I walked widdershins around Warschauer while channeling this like mantra that came to me a few nights before, part of which was, "A witch walks widdershins around Warschauer. A witch walks widdershins around Warschauer, beneath a waning crescent moon." Mumbling, chanting this apocalyptic rant, came here and staked the stake. And back in the day, 2 years ago, I was saying that I was going to kickstart the apocalypse. And then the working was supposed to come to a close about this time last year, March 2020. But, maybe it worked a little bit too well. Who knows? So I was supposed to give this talk, Warschauer Working, or Why I Hexed Them All, this time last year in Stockholm at Conjuring Creativity, like a magical conference exploring art and the esoteric. But things didn't go as planned, and it looks like that's not happening this year, so let's talk about it now. So, why I hex them all? Well, there's 2 explanations. Cheers. One is why I hex them all for my personal witchery reasons, and on the other hand, why I hex them all. Well, personally I feel that's quite obvious. It's a capitalistic abomination, symbolic of all that is wretched in this world, accumulation, profit seeking, also a great symbol of gentrification, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's first talk about why I hex them all and like my personal narrative. Sorry, going to talk about myself again. that you can't uncouple these things. So, back in February 2019, oh god, it sounds cheesy. So yeah, back in February 2019, seemed like my witchery was really taking off. I went to speak at a witchcraft conference in Marseille called Semaine de Magie, Week of Magic. And I went to speak there, of course, first time speaking at a conference. I choose to go somewhere where I'm the only person speaking with English, you know. Had serious witchy imposter syndrome at the time, and the working definitely helped with that. As I said, unapologetically witch. But anyway, I was off to Marseille and I gave a talk about, on the one hand, these people that bind Donald Trump. All my research is looking at the intersections of magic and politics. So I was talking about witchcraft feminism and the movement in the United States that bind Donald Trump once a month. So like the intersections of magic and radical politics in the US, but also talking about the commodification of magic. And I was kind of critiquing, on the one hand, the kind of glamorization and way that magic is being emptied of its political potency through this gradual commodification. You know, to put it simply, like Urban Outfitters selling smudge sticks and tarot cards. And also, because I am an anti-capitalist, anarchist, hex-positive witch, also kind of critiquing, on the one hand, the politics of respectability in like Wicca and the witchcraft movement, who say, like, oh no, it's not a hex, it's a binding. Critiquing that, and also like, you know, of course Donald Trump was a real shit, still is, but for me the root of all issues comes from capitalism, and unless we're going to like really get under and get radical, bringing up from the roots, all this binding business, it doesn't really amount to much. I mean, of course, like, Trump is terrible if you are a minority. I'm sure your life is a bit better when bigots aren't empowered in the streets, but then at the same time, let's look, Joe Biden is bombing brown people in the Middle East already. Anyway, so where am I going? So I went to this conference. Let's also say that just before going to this conference, on the new moon before, was the first time I did with my friend ceremonial magic. We did the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. And like, let's say 20 minutes, 23 minutes after we did this, something very magical came into my possession. This Apocalyptic Witchcraft book from Peter Gray, which was, well, I'd already had my talk prepared, I already had these ideas, but this really, like, I want to say, brought it all together. You know, sometimes if you're just like a lonely old witch with crazy ideas, it always helps when someone more, with a bit more authority or like eloquently can express what you are saying. So this book, it's basically a manifesto for apocalyptic witchcraft. The classic quote is, it's not time for witchcraft to choose, but rather remember what side it is on the struggle. So a real call to wands, let's say. So just before going to Marseille, I got this book, was spreading the apocalyptic gospel. Came back from the conference, everything was bloody fantastic, and yet I was depressed. Clouds, fog in my mind. And so I came back, I was like, well, why am I feeling like this? And then I looked, on the one hand, waning crescent moon. This was also the point where I really, like, my witchery, I really was just following the rhythms of the moon, the fluctuations, and learnt how to use these waning crescent energies. So I am a witch who bleeds. I recognise that all bodies of water dance to the rhythms of the moon, but as a witch who bleeds, I think part of your practice is come to terms, like all bodies of water, but coming to terms with these cyclical cycles, and your powers fluctuate and change throughout the month. So my cycle was perfectly lined up with the moon cycle, so the new moon would be when I was bleeding. So it was also like coming to terms with these energies, realising like the waning crescent, it's when the energies are going, but resolving to direct this negative thought cycle rather than internally, because everything had been going great. It was a great success at the conference, no reason to be annoyed, so take this energy and direct it at the right targets. which in this case was the mall at Warschauer. So yeah, got back to Berlin. I was like, I'm annoyed. I need to do something. I need to stop just like talking and critiquing about witches, and I need to actually get my hands dirty. I was like, right, well, I'm gonna hex them all. I fucking hated them all for a long time, as you'll see. Warschauer is a place I've been magically observing for some time, and it's like a key site where you can really see the creeping capitalist logic. So decided to hex them all, brushing my teeth when I decided I was going to hex them all. Walked out the bathroom. My housemate, who was a carpenter, just suddenly appeared and was like, Jane, I'm sure you'll find a good use for this, and gave me the stake, the olive branch that had been struck by lightning. It was just perfect. Here we are again. This time, it's a shame it's not here, but I think it served its purpose. This tiny little thing is like all jagged. So I charged it on my altar, had this channeled rant, and the mall hex was born. So another one of my magical influences in this time. It was funny because a lot of things were popping up and it all tied together. So the work of great witchy Geraldine Hudson, who